the truth about addiction. So today we're going to tell the real story, the full story, and vulnerable, raw, unfiltered. What is addiction? How do you get it? Bust some of those myths. Is it a disease? Not a disease? Is it hereditary? What can you do to avoid getting any type of addiction or alcoholism in particular? So we're going to talk through, and I'm going to really break it down for us what the definition is, where it comes from, how it plays out in terms of, in particular, it's the neurology that we're going to be talking about because it is a disorder of the brain. And then also bust a few myths along the way and leave you with the top things that are really important for everyone to know. And that is, if you are prone to it, which you'll learn in a second, how you can avoid moving into full-blown addiction in process or chemical, alcoholism or otherwise, and what things you need to watch out for. So we're going to start with the basics and bust some myths along the way, and then really end with some really tangible guidance around what to do if you are an addict and what to do if you're not, but you're afraid that you might be. So alcoholism is an addiction, is a neurological disorder. So they are on the substance use disorder spectrum as defined by the American Journal of Medicine. So it's the DSM-5 that is the clinical criteria that we look at, and we assess in essence how much of the neurology has changed, and you can do that through the symptoms. So an easy way of putting this would be, in terms of, there's a more detailed video on here on are you an addict, are you an alcoholic? But to give you the top level points of that, have you tried to cut down and not been able to? Have you tried to stop and not been able to? Has your tolerance increased? So, used to be a couple glasses of wine for a buzz, now it's a bottle. Have there been consequences? So your partner or somebody in your family has said your drinking's a problem. And then lastly, have there been serious consequences in terms of a loss of a job, drinking under the influence charge, those type of things. So that's how we assess how far along the spectrum we are. And once you've got most of those elements, the neurology has changed in your brain. Again, hold other video that speaks to the neurology shifting from the reward centers of the brain like a normal drinker into the mammalian brain. But in essence, once you actually qualify for the disorder of addiction, the neurology has shifted and the prefrontal cortex is no longer online when you're in active addiction, which means in essence, your executive functioning isn't working and you don't understand consequences. Hence why an ice addict would sell their grandmother. Me, as a recovering alcoholic, would climb out a window to get a bottle of vodka. Crazy, crazy stuff, because the brain is just not working in the same way. And that's where we bust some myths. It's not a choice and it's not a disease. If we look at the latest research, go to Gabor Mate's research, Huberman was a famous neuroscientist, Dr. Reshi Joseph, lots on there who will corroborate what I'm saying here in terms of it being a neurological disorder. In terms of the 12 steps, because they talk about it as a disease, they didn't really have the vocab when they put that book together. A lot of the core contents of the 12 steps are right in terms of how you heal from addiction, diminish shame, come together in community, be in acceptance. All those things are right, but it's lacking a little depth in the medical understanding, the clinical understanding of addiction. But there's a lot in 12 steps can be really great as a part of recovery from addiction. How do you get it? 2 key things. You need to be a highly sensitive soul and you need to have some complex childhood trauma. So that can be little t's or big T's. So little t's, because trauma, remember, is not the event, it's how the nervous system handles it or its incapability to handle it. So we can have like lots of little things. So just feeling like you're lonely, don't belong, unworthy, unloved, or we can have big events, deaths, sexual abuse, those types of things. But what we find most often is a lot of the repeated traumas of someone growing up with this kind of hole in their core, this lack of self-love and self-worth, and that makes them ripe for a pathological self-soothing. So pathological self-soothing takes effect with chemical and with process addictions. And that's why you need to treat the root of addiction to recover from it. You can't just look at the symptoms, put down the drink or the drug or the porn, because the original wound is still there. So that's where we dive into now how we understand complex trauma and recovery from complex trauma. And that's what I'm a big fan of in terms of true recovery is, yes, nurturing mind, body, and spirit, but it's also recovering from that wound and doing the deep inner healing. Otherwise, it becomes like whack-a-mole, put down the drink, then it moves to porn, really you just change behaviors. So very, very important to do some type of therapy, deep healing, nurture mind, body, and spirit, build the confidence up, this lot of self-love. Again, whole other videos here in terms of recovery and what that entails. But there is no quick fix. There is no silver bullet. And what you're going to do to try and avoid getting it is, firstly, if you are highly sensitive and you know that there's been some traumatic events in your childhood, you have to be really particularly special with nurturing mind, body, and spirit. Like really, if you start to get into a low, put that as the top priority to get beyond it. You're in more danger if you start drinking at an early age. And if you're in an occupation or just a way of life, that means you have more substances in your life, because the younger that you're exposed to the substances and to a greater depths, make you at risk of kind of moving over from, say, when we talk about alcohol abuse to full-blown addiction. But generally, by the time people start asking the questions, they're too far along. You'll only know that the honest truth is by trying. If you can stop, then great. If you can't stop, then seek professional help. Because if you are drinking or drugging to a dangerous level, then going cold turkey is incredibly dangerous. I'm not a doctor. I am an addiction specialist. I'm also a recovering alcoholic. So I know this from a felt experience and academically, and I work in the space. I will also say, go and see a doctor. If you think that you have alcoholism, addiction in any form, go and see a doctor. Ideally see an addiction specialist and a clinical psychologist. But do not stop cold turkey, because especially alcohol or benzos, you will need a proper detox or you're at risk of seizure and dying. So yeah, we cannot take this lightly. The one thing I will say in terms of the good news in this story is, when you do recover from an addiction, you take full acceptance, full responsibility, do the deep inner work, heal mind, body, and spirit. It changes everything about you and it creates an amazing life. Like, I am who I am because of the experience that I've gone through, the extra levels of compassion, of kindness to myself and to others. I'm doing a purpose-led work because this journey, everything in this journey, even all the relapses and setbacks, have taken me to this point, to talking to you right now. And for that reason, I wouldn't change it. But what I do try and share in this channel is, some of those early signs, how you can get into recovery safely, how you can stay in recovery, and share some of my mistakes along the way, because you don't need to suffer as much as I suffered in terms of trying to get sober. So it's a little bit of my journey. There's lots more videos on here that go into lots more detail about each of the topics: addiction, alcoholism, recovery, the neuroscience of it, how we stay sober, how we also deal with people in recovery, because it's very, very hard on the loved ones. So please do refer to those other videos, subscribe, like, comment. Really appreciate it, because you doing that also helps us increase the education, diminish the shame, and lower those barriers of access of people actually getting help. So thank you for being here.